Exploration 2, the interpreting intelligence. In the previous exploration, you looked directly at the visual field. You saw that what appears is unstable, unresolvable, a flickering continuum of light and color. It never stabilizes. This second exploration looks at what happens next, how the intelligence that you are interprets that radiant field, how it generates the appearance of definite things and holds these appearances to be real. You will see that this happens automatically. The intelligence builds a simplified, imaginary version of actuality. It creates a sense of world of objects, of continuity, solidity, and independence. But that world never appears. It exists only as interpretation, a spontaneous fantasy within the field itself. The purpose here is not to stop this activity, but to recognize it directly, to see interpretation as interpretation, fantasy as fantasy, and to gain confidence in what is actual, the unresolvable radiant presence itself. So take a moment now and let your eyes remain open, noticing the visual field. Have a look around. It's the same unresolvable field that we observed in the previous exploration. And notice how instantly intelligence begins to know what appears. Without effort, there is a sense, that's a table, there's a picture, there's the sofa. It happens automatically. No decision is made. The knowing simply arises within the field. So let your eyes rest on an object. And notice how easily you know what it is and what it's called. And notice that knowing feels precise. It feels factual. Notice that. Now look more closely. When you examine the visual field itself, what is actually seen? Only a flickering pattern is found. Colors and shades, shifting, unstable, indeterminate. Notice that now. And notice the contrast. The instantaneous knowing feels solid and definite. The seeing itself is fluid and unresolved. So try to move slowly between them. Sort of widen the view and take in the object as you ordinarily know it. Feel its solidity, its independence. And now bring your attention to the visual texture itself. Notice the instability, the constant movement. Let's try it again. And let the sense of the object alternate with a direct seeing of the field. See if you can get a hint of that contrast. I'll pause here so you can try again. So, you can begin to see what is going on. Intelligence fabricates an interpretation of what is actually seen. It produces an imaginary version of the actuality, a simplified representation of that flickering, unresolvable visual field. And it takes that version to be real. This is fantasy. The unresolvable radiance is interpreted as definite things and conditions. What is infinite in detail is reduced to apparent stability. But that stability is only implication. It never appears. An interpretation is an oversimplified imaginary fiction. It is intelligence resolving what cannot be resolved, treating approximation as fact. The supposed objects, situations, the world, the people, exist only as implications within the interpretation itself. And you can check this directly. The thought table and the sense of room, the feeling of me seeing this, all appear as patterns within the same field. None stand apart from it. You can look and see. No external world is ever found. What seems like knowledge is simply intelligence believing its own interpretation. It forgets that what it knows exists only as an imaginary simplification of what is present. And this forgetting gives rise to the sense of solidity and independence. We really think that things are there as we imagine. We really believe it. This is how the fantasy of a world arises, through this spontaneous interpretation of radiant presence, reducing the infinite detail of actuality to a workable fiction of things and conditions. And notice how complete the belief is. The imagined version feels more actual than the seeing itself. But the imagined version never appears. Only the unresolvable field appears. This is not a mistake. It's a natural functioning of intelligence. It produces interpretation automatically. It generates apparent coherence and assumes its coherence to be the truth. This assumption is what we call the world. In actuality, no world is found, no solid entities, no stable continuity, only the self-appearing field of radiant presence, unresolvable, complete, already free of what is imagined. So the purpose of this exploration is not to change the functioning of intelligence, but to recognize it. To see interpretation as interpretation, fantasy as fantasy, and to notice that all of it appears within the same radiant field and has never been anything else. As this recognition stabilizes, confidence shifts from the imagined version to the actuality that is always present, the unresolvable, radiant presence itself. So, let me add an afterword. It may not be obvious what is happening here the first time or the first few times you go through it. Our belief in the fantasy of our imagination is very convincing and very strong. But the yoga, Peter's yoga, is all about exploring actuality. And eventually we come to see what is real, if you like, what is actual and what is fantasy. So repeat this exercise as often as you like. Keep looking, and hopefully sooner or later the difference will become obvious. Okay, good luck with it.